Welcome to the Battlefield Show. I'm your host, Sage Goodwin, and as always, I'm joined by Sammy Boy. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well, man. How are you?
Doing fantastic. Ready to talk about the new update for Battlefield 2042 update 1.1, which is the first update for Season 1. And we're going to be detailing all the thoughts and changes on that update. So let's jump right in. We have an update. Thankfully, our recording schedule worked out perfectly for this one because it came out yesterday as we were recording it. So fantastic.
Yeah, we've had some luck lately. It's when the game sort of I think when it hadn't launched, they were like releasing news on like Tuesdays and stuff. And it was kind of like an awkward moment, or it was that, or like on Saturday after we'd recorded.
Yeah, it was either after or like much before we recorded. So it was like, what are we even going to do with this?
By the time we got to it, it was like too late to really talk about it. So we've been repaid by the last few months have been very kind to us. I definitely think they must listen to the podcast and they've heard us and, and they've changed their update day because of us.
No, they definitely know. They definitely don't listen to the podcast because if they did, they would change everything to be early or later, so we would record and then the news would come out.
Yeah, true.
That stupid Battlefield show, we're gonna show those guys. So this is more of like a quality of life update. It wasn't a whole lot of like massive changes, but it seemed to have added a lot of good stuff for players. Sammy, you want to break down kind of the overview of what was updated?
So the main element of this that they kind of talked about was the animation changes to the player movement and stuff, which on paper sounds pretty small and insignificant, but it actually feels a lot better, like the traversal and, like climbing over walls and stuff like that. It all feels a lot smoother. It's not like a drastic change where it's like different gameplay and movement, but it just feels very polished now, the movement.
Yeah.
It's still not perfect. There's still a few things like random little, climbing over some of the rocks and stuff. It's still a little bit dodgy, but I think that's just that seems to be a shooter thing in general. Like I know Warzone's just terrible with that too. So it just feels a lot more polished from a movement perspective, and also just like watching another player run, it looks more realistic as well. It's kind of just a nice quality of life change. There's been a few balances done to vehicles, which are very good in my opinion. They've actually nerfed the hell out of a couple of vehicles, which makes me quite happy. There was also some changes to the DMRs in the game. They've essentially buffed them, not drastically, but just at range they're a little bit more punchy, bit more headshot damage. And other than that, mostly just like a couple of bug fixes, a couple of little tweaks and stuff like that. A few audio changes, like when you're spawning into a game, the music's a bit more like loud, not louder, but it's a bit more, it's like has chosen the part of the song that's really like upbeat and intense. And there's like, I don't know, a lot of small changes like that individually, like changing the music doesn't matter, but when you do like 10 of them, it actually makes it just feels a bit more Battlefield. It's a bit more intense and a bit more, you're spawning into the game and it's like, all right, let's go. This is, I'm hype. So a lot of changes like that. Like you said, there's not really anything drastic. Nothing has happened that's like, oh, this is awesome. But it's like all of it together has just sort of added to the polish again. And just more updates like this is what we need. We obviously need more content, but I think we'd all probably feel the same, that we're probably not going to get content until Season 2. So I think this update and then the next update, which I guess in a way we're getting content because the revamped kaleidoscope, I guess you could partly count that as content, not really, but
kind of, sort of, maybe.
It's more content than like bug fixes, I guess. But I just want this update, which it's gone really well so far, and then the next update, which I guess is 1.2. If they can just make sure that those are good, I think the game will be in a really decent state by Season 2. And I think Season 2 for me was always when it was probably going to be a bit more not a relaunch, but just a bit more of like a proper launch into the game, because season 1 was always going to be a bit of a like testing the waters to me. It was this is the first season they've done, first battle pass, so I didn't have that much expectation, and to be honest, it's gone better than I thought. Like, the map's really good, everything has gone well, so yeah, good direction at the moment, and it is still a little bit slow. The updates aren't massive or anything like that, but at the end of the day, it's all going really well, so hopefully we can just keep on this trajectory, and once we get to season 2, hopefully there's more maps, and they add the portal content into All Out Warfare and server browser and stuff like that. And I think at that point the game will actually be like, you can consider it a good shooter. It's not going to be the best, but it'll be past the point of, what it was at launch anyway.
They're slowly. I like the title of your review of the update. Was it slowly but surely making Battlefield playable? It's some good changes, some necessary changes. A question for you: I haven't been able to hop in at all. Did they fix the issue where in the last update you could prone, but you couldn't zoom and move side to side with that? Did they fix that?
They did. Yeah.
Hallelujah.
Which is something that's like. That's the type of thing that I mean. It's a really small thing, and it's not game breaking, but it's like when there's 100 of those tiny little issues, they do add up, and that's kind of the stuff they're fixing.
You don't notice it when it's there, but if it's not there, you really notice it.
Yeah, that's the perfect way to describe it. Now that it's in the game, like, almost who cares? Like, it's that should have been there, but when it wasn't there, you really do notice it. So. A lot of changes. Even just stuff like when you're loading into a game, and when there's like not a full lobby yet, it's sort of just starting out. If you press start in the last update, the only option was, do you want to quit or not? Whereas now it can actually just pull up the menu and you can look at all your stuff. So it's the type of stuff that obviously should have been there, but it wasn't. So even though it's so late into the game, at least it is now there, and it's all these little small changes they're making that they are starting to add up. It's feeling, every time I play it, it feels like a decent shooter now. It's still not perfect, but it doesn't feel like when I was playing it in April, it was like, this is not good. This is not a good game. Whereas now it kind of gets a bit of a pass mark. It still has a long way to go, but it's at that point where it's, I guess, acceptable, which is, it's embarrassing that it's taken this long to get there, but it's still there, and it's better than it was before. So that's really all I can hope for, really.
Yeah, and like, there's so many of those things, like you're saying. It's not necessarily the thing itself that is huge. It's the combination of all of these small changes that just weren't there, and very indicative of like the lack of understanding of the different pieces that make up a Battlefield game and make it more satisfying.
Yeah.
So I think
that's spot on. It's just the combination. It's the body of work, not the individual things. That's kind of the best way to describe it. It's all adding up, which is it's what the game needs. It just needs work done to it, and it has. Luckily for the last 3 to 4 months, it has had that.
Yeah, slowly but surely, man, they're getting to it. Something that I thought was hilarious in the patch notes is. We actually have quite a few updates to Hazard Zone in this.
Yeah. Interesting. It's confusing to see that. I'm not sure if there's a reason, or if it's just that it was a bit broken and they just had to fix it. I don't really know.
I didn't think they would ever touch it again. Like, I thought it would be like it would be there, but they just wouldn't touch it or patch it or anything like that. Less than, like, they said that they weren't going to support it in terms of content, but I thought that also meant that they weren't also going to support it for updates. Yeah,
I was the same. I never thought I'd see maybe like something that was like genuinely broken to where it couldn't be played, they'd fix that, but this stuff wasn't really. I didn't really read it that much, to be honest, because it's pretty irrelevant. But it didn't seem like it had to be fixed. So like it's interesting that they've done that.
I still haven't played it since the time that I spent an hour and a half trying to play it.
Yeah, I don't. I'll be honest. I don't think you ever will play it.
I
'Cause there's no
probably
one.
won't.
Yeah, which is it's honestly it's unfortunate. It was good fun. Like it had some potential, but yeah, I don't know. It's just a big mess. I don't know.
It's like such a waste of content. It's like they have this huge, very valuable space on the menu, but like if you're listening to this right now and you're a huge Hazard Zone fan, let us know what the experience is like. Because I tried it in the evening in Colorado, wasn't able to find anything. So let us know. I want to know what your thoughts are and what the play style experience for Hazard Zone is. Why do you play Hazard Zone versus the rest of the game modes? I think that'd be an interesting discussion. Yeah, Hazard Zone. What the heck? What's going on? They did say that the next update will be in August, which we were all expecting that for sure. But that will be... August will be the last month if they're doing the quarterly, like every 3 months session of the updates, right? And I assume that will be I think the first of the month update will probably be the big one where we get those kaleidoscope changes.
Yeah, I'd imagine it'll be. It seems like they've kind of moved it to like the first week of the month because the last two have been like early June and early July. So I'd imagine like first week or so of August will be the big update with Kaleidoscope. I know they're adding. I don't know if it'll be in that update, but I'm pretty sure they'll be adding like that stats page and all that kind of stuff. So it should just be another kind of like fundamental update where they're just reinforcing things again. And then I think hopefully season 2 hopefully can launch with content, and hopefully like after that it won't need like the mid-season updates won't need to be just bug fixes. They can hopefully add like maybe we've got 2 weapons this season, maybe they do 2 at the start of the season, then there'll be 2 separate updates during that season. Maybe we get an extra weapon per update or something.
I would love to see that.
But yeah, because that's how they do it with Warzone, and it's really good. It's like the season drops, there's a lot of hype, but then say the point we're at now with season 1, it's still fun. I'm still enjoying it, but like the novelty's worn off a little bit of like it's new. It's now just like it's just part of the game now. So, for example, in this update, if they had have given us another weapon, then it would be like, oh, we're still getting stuff. So it definitely adds to the replayability and just the hype. I'm not sure 1 weapon per every other update is enough to do that, but yeah, like even just like adding a bunch more skins or whatever they do, I think that would definitely be good, because I think for season 1 it's gone well, that like I don't really want extra content right now, because I really enjoy these updates where it's just fixing the game. That's what it needs the most. But I think at some point it's like we're not that far away from it actually being like a pretty solid game, and then they don't need to do that every month. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they handle that moving forward.
Yeah, definitely. I totally forgot that they're going to add a stats page. What are your expectations on what that's going to look like?
Considering Battlefield 5's was pretty in depth, actually, I think it will be pretty solid. They've got the I forget the name. I think it's tracker.gg, a website that does stats for a bunch of games, and they've already got all the stats on there. Like you can already check your stats. So they've got a lot of stuff. It's like how many kills with each weapon, your KD with each weapon, your KD with all the specialists, all those. There's like a lot of stuff, and so if that means they've been tracking those stats. So therefore, I think there will be a lot of stuff. It won't just be like your playtime and your kill-death ratio. It'll be probably fairly in-depth, similar to Battlefield 5 and Battlefield 1 had pretty in-depth stats as well. So, yeah, it's a weird thing to add, like, because kind of no one's really asked for that. Like I think at the launch of the game maybe they did, because we all thought, like, oh, that's part of a shooter. Where's the stats page? But I haven't heard anyone really complain about that for a long time. So, yeah, it's a weird one, but I'm definitely keen for it. Like it is one of those things. Again, it's just like adding to what should have been there. So definitely keen to see what it looks like.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think that's a great way to like put a wrapper on it. Is a lot of the stuff that Battlefield and Dice and the whole game is doing right now. The whole team is focusing on things that should have been there in the beginning, that we kind of hoped were going to be there in the beginning, but just weren't. So now we're starting to see this. We're starting to see much more of a maturity of a game. We're starting to see those features, the UI, and everything take a lot more of the tone and the quality that we expected from it in the beginning instead of what we're getting now. Or
Yeah,
instead of what we
100%.
got at
I
the
think
beginning.
that's the way to go because, like, as much as a lot of people are like, oh, this is like, it's all so slow. Give us like 3 maps a season, all that kind of thing. And like, I get the idea behind that, but if they launched season 1 with 3 maps but they didn't put that time into fixing the game, and I know they're different teams that work on different stuff, but like, if they added 3 really, 3 big maps, but they weren't good, and the game still wasn't good, it wouldn't matter because no one would be having fun anyway. You know what I mean? So I think this is the way to do it. It does feel very slow. It feels like it's drip feeding content, but I really would rather quality over quantity at the moment.
Oh yeah.
And eventually, hopefully, they can get it to the point where I don't think they'll support it that long, but if they do decide, Vince is there now, maybe they do decide to stick with it. And at that point, once the game is in a good spot, maybe then we can start getting 2 maps a season and stuff like that. So I think this is the way to do it. It's just whether they stick with the game, then that'll make it feel a bit slow because like if we only get 4 maps and then they end it, then yeah, that will feel pretty rough, I guess.
Yeah.
But, I still think I'd rather that than look at all the other maps there. I've been playing Exodus Conquest, and every time I get a map that is like one of the base maps, I just quit. I don't.
Yep.
They're just not playable. They're so bad. All of those maps are so bad. Maybe Orbital is kind of playable. The rest of them just suck, and I don't ever want to play those maps again, to be honest. So I'd rather them be slow and the maps that we get are really good, like Exposure. I could play that every day forever. I don't need it to be for there to be 10 different maps. I'd rather one map that's really good, for example. And it's they've kind of, I think most people feel that because that's what everyone's playing. Everyone still just chooses the 24/7 Exposure map.
Yeah. When they switched it over to where it wasn't the default and I got into the regular map rotation, and I was like, oh, no. Yeah. What's going on? No.
Yeah. It's and that's like the perfect example of what I mean is like I'd rather, because I know a lot of people, they go, oh, but I'd rather some variety. I'd rather more maps. But like if all of those maps suck, just like the base game maps, you're not going to want to play them. It doesn't matter if there's variety. You're not going to want to play those maps. So yeah, again, it does feel slow, and I wish it was a bit faster, but I would definitely, I think they're going about it the right way. From where the game launched, they really have handled it pretty much the best they could have from here, I think. So I just hope they keep doing that really, and don't fall into the trap of trying to rush things out and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, they've gotten slowly but surely more of the respect of the community back. Obviously not the amount that they once had, but it's getting better, and slowly but surely people are being like, oh hey, besides all of the crap that was at launch, there's more here than I originally expected there was. And I think once they fix some of these key issues, this game could be quite fun. And I think more and more people are realizing this, which leads me perfectly to the idea. Did you see the comparison of Halo and Battlefield 2042, where Halo on Steam is 3 times less than the player base of Battlefield 2042?
Yeah, that's interesting. It's been a weird time for shooters, man. It's been a weird time because that game launched so well. And I don't know how they've flipped. Like, it's a weird situation because I still think Halo's a better game, like from a
Yes.
gameplay perspective. But it's just they've handled the live service so poorly that it shows that a live service is still very important. Because yeah, it doesn't matter how good a game is at the start, if nothing really happens, people will lose interest. So yeah, it's a weird situation. I also I guess like Halo probably has a lot more Xbox players than Battlefield does as well, so it's hard to tell. But yeah, it sucks for Halo, man. That sucks because that game, I haven't really played it all that much, but it launched really well, and I remember playing it and just being like, wow, this is what Battlefield should have been, a really polished game. And then yeah, I don't know what they've done wrong, but since then they just have handled it so poorly.
It's almost like Battlefield and Halo switched places. Like at the beginning, there was this light in the darkness of Halo Infinite, and it's free multiplayer, and its promise of continued updates and live service. And then you had Battlefield, and now you have Battlefield, which they're showing. I mean, very slowly, but they are showing that they do have a commitment in bringing more content. They have at least somewhat of a plan of that content. They've at least been in this situation before and know the ways to get out of it. While this is a very new experience for 343, again, both of these games are very similar. Both launched with less content than they should have. But while one was technically great, it did not have the live support. And the other one, which Battlefield 2042, was not technically great, but they are, again, besides the first 8 months of the game, they're now getting to the point where they are bringing that content. They're bringing more of what people want than Halo is. And I think that's fascinating. And it just shows how important it is to have the live service aspect of games now. And really understanding what your community wants and understanding that, hey, communication's super valuable, super important, and continued updating is even more important than that. So listen to your community, find out what they need, find out what they want. And I think where Halo failed is they didn't have, at least from the outside perspective, really an idea of what kind of content they wanted, while Battlefield, at least they did know what kind of content they were bringing.
Yeah, true. And even like if the content that DICE wanted, maybe we didn't love it that much with like specialists and stuff like that, but at least they had that vision, like you said, that they knew what they were going to do. And I do think that's the case with Halo. They didn't, they just seemed like they had no plan. They launched the game really well, and then they were just like, okay, what now? And yeah, that's unfortunately led them to where they are. And I hope that they can turn it around because it still has so much potential. But at the same time, it's been like nearly, coming up on a year now, and there's not much has really happened. So it's interesting to watch. It's the whole shooter landscape right now is just so weird. Like, even Call of Duty's not going that well. Warzone's doing okay, but then like Apex has probably overtaken that again. But then Apex is having issues with them not paying enough attention to like the issues with the game. They're putting out a lot of content, but
Yeah.
apparently there's like a lot of bugs and stuff like that.
Well, they had an input
And it's
issue
like-
with Xbox that took them 2 weeks to fix.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's all just a bit of a mess. There's no one that's really got everything right. You know what I mean? Like they've
Yeah,
all
if
kind
you-
of got their
yeah.
things like Battlefield launched so poorly, but the live service so far has been, or it's not really been a live service, but like fixing the game has been,
Yeah.
done fairly well. And then Halo was the complete opposite. It launched really well and has been not that great ever since. And then Warzone, like that's had heaps and heaps of issues, and it's been a genuine roller coaster of being like the best game ever to just being completely unplayable, and it just kind of goes up and down every 3 months. And then Apex has been up the top, and then that's now having issues, so it's probably starting to come down a bit. Like they're all just, I don't know what's going on.
Did you guys all team together and make like a really awesome game?
Yeah, I was gonna say that we should get DICE and 343 to combine and 343 can handle the launch of the next Battlefield, and then DICE can come in and do the live service, and it'll be a sick Battlefield game.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. It's super fascinating to see all of these different games in the same genre approach the problem of live service in very different ways, where you have, like you said, Apex with this super strong content delivery where they're very consistent in bringing good quality content, but a lot of the technical aspect of things are failing, and they aren't focusing on that as quickly as we would like. Then you have Halo, who launched very technically and one of the best feeling games that came out in the time frame. And then you've got a Battlefield where they didn't launch technically very well, but they are putting in the effort and the speed with those updates quite well with that. So it's this really weird state of the multiplayer shooter space.
Yeah, and I think because like they're all kind of not doing amazing, no one knows who to like copy. No one goes like, oh, because like with Call of Duty in the past, that they was doing so well that everyone was like, that's the method.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's like, I don't think anyone knows who to like look at and go, that's the way to do it. Like, I think they're all a little bit all over the place, and they're probably all kind of looking at each other. I'm thinking of that Office scene where they all have the finger guns to each other.
Yes.
And they're all just like, like, who's doing what? You're doing that well, let's try copy that, but then we're not doing this well. Who's doing that? And they're just all looking at each other like unsure of how to actually approach a live service properly.
It's so crazy. What are your overall? What's your thought of this as like an update to season 1? This is the first one that we've had to it. Do you think this is the kind of update that we're gonna update cycle that we're gonna get, where you've got the big main map in the first of the season, and then you've got all of that like content at the beginning. Then you have more of the bug fixes, changes, quality of life update later on, and then you have the map change. Do you think this is going to continue on through the rest of the seasons, or is this one of those like we're still finding our footing?
It's hard to tell. It just kind of depends on how quickly they get it to the state where it's like, like finished from a technical standpoint of like the game is how they intend it to be. If that takes all the way through season 2, then I think season 2 will be the same, where it's like the big content drop, and then what would that be? September, so October would be the patch more than the update, if that makes sense. But it also, like I said, eventually they will get to the point where the game is like 95% done. There's always going to be improvements, so that they're always going to update it. But like when it feels really solid, I do hope that they start to focus more on content then. One good thing about what they're doing is that, which hasn't been the case in past pretty much any Battlefield or even the Battlefront games, is that their updates aren't breaking things, which is really good because that means that they don't have to constantly be fixing the game. They can just it feels like they can actually get it to a point where it's, we give it an A and it's a good game, and then it will just stay an A, and then the content is what will push it to an A+, you know what I mean? Whereas with, say, Battlefront 2, it was like stuck at a B, and they'd do a really good update, but then there was so many things broken in the same update that it just stayed at a B. And it was like, the next update, it's like, oh, well, now they have to fix the things they just broke. So it kind of was like stagnant. And that kind of actually, weirdly enough, doesn't feel the case in this game. It's like every update is like, yeah, this is actually getting better.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not breaking new things. So, yeah, eventually it feels like it will get to the point where it'll be mostly really technical. And like I said, they'll always have bug fixes and stuff, because that's just how it goes. But
yeah,
I would hope that, it might not be season 2, but say season 3, like the mid-season updates can actually be like smaller content drops. They're not going to do a map every month, but like maybe we get a remastered Portal map in the middle of the season, like put that into the game and put, add some more Portal weapons and put those into All Out Warfare, and add some new stuff to Portal from like, in terms of like the stuff that you can create. all those sorts of things. It doesn't have to be huge content like a new specialist or a map or even weapons, but it can just be content that is still technically content, but it's a bit on that smaller scale. So I hope that that's the way they go. Whether they do that, I'm not. Yeah, it's hard to tell just yet, but it does feel like it will get to that point where they don't have to keep like massively improving it, because this update is pretty much just fixing the game. And yeah, it feels like in, say, November, December, that surely won't have to be the case where they're still doing a whole update to just fix stuff, unless they go back to their old ways and start breaking things in every update or something. But yeah.
Guys, we fix it. Dang it. I think it's a great point to make is, like you said, in Battlefront 2, they were able to get to the point where they could match the quality of the past update, but they could never exceed it. And they're finally, with this game, we are seeing that improvement. Like you said, it's they're getting their heads above the water instead of trying to keep on swimming, and as soon as they get to the top or break the water, another wave comes in. Like, finally we're getting to the point where, yes, this game is getting there. It is changing things in positive ways each update. We're getting things that should have been there in the beginning. We're getting things that you don't notice that they're not there until you try to do the thing. They're changing that. They're updating it. They're making it more fluid in the movement, which is good because it needs it. And slowly but surely, they're making the updates better with each one. They're making the game better with each one. We're definitely lacking on the content, but I hope, and it's still one of those it's a foolish hope, because we know how we've been here before. We know what happens at this point of the story. It's a foolish hope, but I do hope that by the time we get to season 3 or 4, that with season 2, and maybe they take season 3 to do this as well, and they go out with a bang with season 4. But with season 1, they've been doing it with the updates and making everything nicer and better to play. Season 2, they continue that cycle. They keep on refining what they've got. And then season 3, you have that final bit of polish, and then they're like, okay, time to open the floodgates and get a lot of content out.
Yeah, 100%. And that's like the thing that, because like I said, they do have separate teams work. So like people working on the maps don't necessarily work on fixing the game. So because they are somewhat slowly putting out the content, it does feel like they're almost building up a bit of a backlog of content that can eventually be the thing where, you know, whether they go beyond season 4, I'm not too sure, and I just think they won't, unfortunately. But yeah, eventually it does feel like they will have a bit of like almost like content that's stocked up, and then they can go, hey, by the way, now we're getting, you know, season 3 and 4, we're getting 2 maps instead of 1. So yeah, whether that happens, it's very hard to tell. Yeah, as good as everything's gone for the last probably 4 months now, like I really don't have anything negative to say about the last 4 updates, but like I don't fully trust them yet. You know, they've still got a long way to go. Yeah. So it's like it's all going well, but I'm just still trying not to get my hopes up, because yeah, DICE has let us down a few too many times. So I want to trust them. I do. I want to be that, you know, loyal DICE fan that just, back in the Battlefield 3 and 4 days, everything they did was so good that you just like defend them with your life kind of thing. But they haven't really earned that just yet. They're doing well. They're on the right track for sure. And if they just keep doing what they've done the last 4 months for another 4 months, another 6 months, another 8 months, then it'll be a really solid game. But until I see it, I'm just trying to temper my expectations a bit.
Yeah, the key is for them not to be like, oh yeah, time to start patting ourselves on the back. We did such a great job. Yeah. No, they need to be in the mindset of, oh crap, we're doing horrible. We need to keep on making things better. It's still in a rough spot. We need to do this. Yeah. I 100% agree with you in terms of I want to hope that there's going to be continued content after season 4, but I highly doubt it. I'm almost 100% sure that they won't do it, just because of the rumors and the reporting that we've seen from various people in the industry about them already planning another Battlefield game. And that's going against everything that they've announced in terms of, oh yeah, this Battlefield game is going to be the foundation of the future. This is going to be a platform for other things to build upon. And it's like, oh yeah, this one's going bad. Let's get this other team working on a future Battlefield game.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes. Obviously, we would all love it for this game to continue to be updated, because we have never gotten a game from DICE except for like back in the day with like maybe Battlefield 3 or 4, where they got the game to a really nice spot and then they kept on delivering content.
That's the thing, isn't it?
Even Battlefield 1 was super solid, but they never went like above and beyond on the content. Like they're like, we're going to give you this and then that's it.
Yeah, we haven't had a Battlefield that, and even like Battlefield 3 and 4, I think they were like amazing and the live service was really good, but they didn't go above and beyond because they still were like, oh, well, there's the new one coming out, so we're going to, put this one away. I really just want them to do like a Rainbow Six Siege where it's like, this is a good game now and we're just going to stick with it until eventually it'll just be too old and they'll have to make a new one. I'm not saying this is the last Battlefield game, you know what I mean? But like, stick with it for 3 years, like 3 or 4 years, and if it's still going well, then stick for another year and just keep doing it. Because like, if it's, I know EA is very much like, oh, we need to sell games, but this game is monetized well enough that they genuinely can make as much money off just this game as they could by just doing their previous system where they just release a game, focus on it for 2 years and then make another one. So the money can't be an excuse anymore. They will make money if they make the game good and they give us good skins and keep doing what they're doing. It will make money, and so it'll just be it's going to be so disappointing if they just do that again. Which, like I said, I think that they will. I have a zero hope that they'll stick past season 4, which is disappointing because I want to, like, me, I'm the most like hopeful, excited person. I'm never like that negative person, but I just don't see it. I do not see them.
That's me. I bring that to the party.
I just don't see them sticking with it, which is really frustrating because I know we'll get to season 4 and everything's going to be good and there's going to be hype and everyone's like, yes, this is finally what the first trailer showed. This is so good. And then they're going to be like, well, we're done, boys. We're moving on to the next one. And then we're all just going to be depressed again.
Time to make sure that we get a game out before or before Call of Duty does. Because that's the thing that's motivating them, is they want to get a game out quick so they can take advantage of Call of Duty taking a year off. That's basically what they've said in all the reporting.
Yeah, which is it's annoying because they from the live service, they feel like they are learning from their mistakes with this one. They're like, okay, we're going to really just double down and fix it. And so it's like they're showing promise and they're like, okay, like all the players are sort of thinking, this is good, DICE, keep doing this. You seem like you're learning. But then if they do that and just rush out another game, then they effectively have learned absolutely nothing. And they're just doing the exact same thing that they've failed with this game, was they've rushed a game out. I don't know how they could possibly I don't know how anyone can be a good businessman and think that that's the right thing to do. I just don't get it. I understand there's a window there of, we usually compete with Call of Duty, now we don't have to, so let's make the most of it. On paper, sounds really good. On paper doesn't always make it good though, does it? So I don't know how anyone, this is the problem with EA, is that they are businessmen. They're not game developers. They don't understand the gaming, like they don't understand the industry they're working in. They just understand business.
Or honestly, even if you are a game developer, as we've seen throughout the pandemic, you need more time than you've ever had before.
100%.
You can't make games like you did before the pandemic.
Yeah.
You have to make games differently. Things are going to take longer. It's going to be a longer process than it was normally done before.
Yeah.
Like, we've seen it with every single game. Every single game, even the one that's been delayed multiple times, by the time it comes out. Even like Lego Star Wars. Like, that game was delayed numerous times, almost indefinitely delayed. And it released, it was visually great, but like it was lacking a lot of soul and heart from it. And I think a lot of that is just because of the time constraints and the ability for them to develop in a way that is fruitful for the amount of content people expected from that game.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that they need to look at is like, you could look at it one way and go like, Call of Duty's taken the year off, that's a perfect time to pounce. Or if you have that, like, if you're thinking ahead, you could look at that and go, hang on, Call of Duty has released a game every year for like 15 years, and now they are taking a year off. What does that say? Mm-hmm. They know what they're doing. They are taking a year off for an exact reason, that they need to ensure the quality of their game.
Yeah, it's not just for fun.
Yeah, so if they do that, they are looking at the biggest and best. Like, say what you will about Call of Duty, you know, I'm a big Call of Duty fan, but I roast it because it is like, it's just the same thing every year. But it's the number one shooter and has been essentially forever. If they look at what they are doing and go, oh, we're going to do the complete opposite, that's terrible business. It's like, you don't look at your number one competitor and the company that is doing far better than you and go, they're doing this, let's do the exact opposite. That's not how that works. So if they're taking a year off, you take 2 years off and you make sure you get the next game.
Yeah.
Because I think that would be just so dumb to be like, let's pounce on that, rather than trying to like they need to like take a deep breath and be like, hang on, why are they taking a year off? And really think about that, because I think that's going to be really big for Call of Duty. And if Battlefield rushes one out and Call of Duty takes their time, I think that's the final nail in the coffin. I really do. I think Call of Duty will just absolutely shit all over Battlefield if they just come out with a really polished, really good game, and Battlefield's rushed another one and they've just lost all the trust that they gained back. That's, the franchise is, I'm not going to say it's done. They'll still make games, but it will never compete with Call of Duty again.
It's never going to be respected in the level that it once was. The intern at DICE is running in and is like, guys, Call of Duty's taking a year off. And all the executives are like, oh my gosh, we need to get a game out right now. And then the one person in the back's like, but if they're taking a year off, should we like put more time into our game? And then they just throw him out the window. That's how I imagine that conversation going, is the intern coming in telling the news, and all of them are like, yes, it's going to be great. We're going to rush. We're going to work overtime. We're going to get this game out as quick as we can. Instead of looking at it like, this company, this franchise has put out a game every year for how many years? I can't even count. I don't know. But consecutively. And they have a system that works very well at being able to deliver that amount of games each year. And they have was it 3 different studios, as well as a 3-year development cycle with each of them, so they can hit that cadence as their offset.
Yeah.
So if all of them are like, no, we need extra time, that is very indicative of the changes in game development and how that functions in the modern day.
And that's such a red flag that, like, I don't know how they don't see that. Is the part that's confusing is
when EA sees a red flag, they mean go. Yeah.
That's what that is actually what it feels like, though, is that EA is just like full send at all times. They just think like money, and they just go, and they don't really take a step back and go, okay, we're doing really well, but we could also do better, and like look at the competition like Call of Duty and, okay, they're taking a year off. Maybe we should try and figure out why they're taking a year off. And maybe they come to the conclusion that they still should put a game out in that year that they're taking off. But it feels like they don't think about that stuff. It feels like they just rush everything. And I just don't think that's the way to do it, especially, like I said, especially now with the way that the world is, like, everything's slowed down. It's not just game development, it's literally everything, like filmmaking and even like the housing market. It takes way longer to build houses these days. Like they need to step back and look at this is a new world that we're living in. It's changed drastically in the last 2 years. and they just need to assess it. And it feels like they just don't. They go, oh, there's a chance. Let's pounce on that, and it never works out. It's whenever they rush anything, it just does not work.
She's a 10, but plays single player games.
Jeez. Oh, goodness.
Worst tweet of 2022, and that's saying a lot. I mean, that's just so indicative of how EA perceives themselves. It was like, I love too the one of like several of the writers and creators from Respawn were like, dude, seriously, we're making single player games for you. What are you talking about?
It was just such a poor joke. Like, it was just not funny. Like, no one laughed at that.
Old man sees trend and like, oh, I can do this too.
That is exactly what it was. It was just like just you see, like, it's like when people see a TikTok trend that happened like a month ago and then they like do it, and it's like, and everyone's like, what? what are you doing?
This was dead 3 days after it came out. What are you doing, bro?
It was just so, like, I will say, I think a lot of people, like, maybe also took it too seriously, but, like, it was just like not funny. And I don't know why I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't understand
Who
it.
thought that was a good idea?
Yeah.
I commented and I was like, well, that makes them like a 15 out of 10.
Yeah. I just
Like, I don't see any problems here.
Yeah, they're very odd. I just saw it and was like, oh, I'm getting off Twitter before this blows up.
Oh, yeah. The face palm,
Yep.
Okay, time to turn off my phone for the rest of the week and go live in a cave.
Yep.
Just imagine you're that intern that pressed send on that. Oh,
I just don't know how, like, the amount of approvals they would have to get to do tweets. And it's, again, I think a lot of people made it out like it was like a really bad tweet, as if it was like offensive or something. It wasn't that bad. It was just not funny. It was just like, why are you tweeting that? It's just not funny.
Yeah.
It's like,
you can tweet that, but you can't tell us when the next update's going to come out?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know what goes on.
Yep, it's better not to know what goes on inside of EA. But I think with that, thank you all so much for listening to this episode of The Battlefield Show. We greatly appreciate your support, and you can support us freely by giving us a review on your favorite podcast app on Apple Podcast or Spotify. Wherever you listen to podcasts, definitely make sure you are subscribed for free and check out both of our YouTube channels. As always, we'd like to thank Ethan Clark for the beautiful thumbnail, all of you for listening, and as always, we'll see you on the battlefield.